Factoring. Factoring. Now, we're factoring quadratic or quadratic-like. We have these 5 main steps. And really with factoring in general, finding the greatest common factor is going to be the biggest first step. If there's something in common with all the terms, we need to factor it out first. Our second main step is then 2 sets of parentheses with 3 spaces, especially with these quadratics. Our third step is finding the sign. If the third term is positive, the signs are the same and match the sign of the middle term. If the third term is negative, our signs are opposite. Our fourth step is to find the factors of the first and third term. And lastly, once we find those, we plug them in and check and make sure we have the correct factors. So when we look at the first example of this here, b squared plus 12b plus 20. First thing we want to look for is the greatest common factor. We want to see if there's something in common with b squared, 12b, and 20. And for this one here, there is no greatest common factor between the 3 terms. Biggest hint is if we look at the first and third term. B squared does not have a number in front of it besides 1. 20 doesn't have a variable. So there's not a variable in common with all 3. Since there's not a number in front of b squared, there's no number in common with all 3. So it tells us that there is no greatest common factor between these 3 terms. If there's no greatest common factor, we just move on to step 2, our 2 sets of parentheses with 3 spaces. Okay. Now we move on to step 3. We want to find the sign. If the third term is positive, the signs are the same and match the sign of the middle term. Third term is negative, the signs are opposite. Here the third term is positive. So the signs are going to be the same and match the sign of the middle term. So we have plus and plus. Questions on this so far? Now we need to find the factors of the first and third terms. Now, I don't normally write the factors of b squared or x squared because the only set of factors that we actually have for this are b and b, or x and x, the variable and itself. And whenever I only have one set of factors, one possible option, I just go on and throw it in. Because that's the only option we have, the only arrangement we have, so we can just stick them in there. Now the factors of 20. We have 1 and 20. 2 and 10. 3 is not a factor of 20. But 4 is 4 and 5. And that's every possible factor. When I'm listing the factors, I always start with 1 in the number and just increase from there. So 1, 2, 3, 4, until we run out. Or essentially the other side, the results that we get equal what were the factors we're dividing it by, or get smaller than it. Now looking at this here, 1 and 20, 2 and 10, 4 and 5. Which one do we want to try first? 2 and 10. 2 and 10. We plug it in and then we're going to check. Now, most books, a lot of teachers will say when we check, we need to multiply the whole thing out. I'm not a big fan of that. And part of the reason is, well, I'm not going to check b times b. B times b is b squared. Well, where do we get the b and b from? The factors of b squared. Factors, by definition, multiply together to give us that term. So there's not a whole lot of reason to check b times b. Or 2 times 10. 2 times 10 is 20. 2 and 10 are factors of 20. We don't need to check that because that's how we got that. The only times those would not work is if we got the wrong factors. Then we have other issues to begin with. But the ones that I do check is b times 10, which gives us 10b. 2 times b is positive 2b. And 10b plus 2b is 12b. Is that the middle term we wanted?
Yes.
So b plus 2 times b plus 10 are the correct factors. Now, I'm not going to write this every time, but we could also have b plus 10 times b plus 2. Because we can multiply any two things in any order. So those are the same answers, we just have the two factors flipped. Both work. Don't need both, you just need one of them. Questions on this here? A squared plus 4a minus 32. Is there a greatest common factor between these three terms? No. So, if there's no greatest common factor, we'll just move on to step 2, our two sets of parentheses with 3 spaces. Now, the main reason I do this, the two sets of parentheses with 3 spaces, is just to make sure the parentheses are wide enough that we can fit everything in. That's the only reason I do that step. Step number 3, find the signs. If the third term is positive, the signs are the same and match the sign of the middle term. If the third term is negative, the signs are opposite. Well, the third term is negative, so the signs are opposite. One is going to be positive and one is going to be negative. Questions on this so far? Factors of the first and third terms. So our factors of a squared are a and a. That's the only set of factors for a squared, because we don't have a number in front of it. Even if we did, it'd still be a times a. Factors of 32. We have 1 and 32. 32 and 1. 2 and... Is 3 a factor of 32?
I think 4 is.
We can check. 32 divided by 3. No, 32 divided by 4. 8. 5 is not a factor of 32 because 32 does not end in a 0 or 5. 6 is not a factor of 32 because the only way it could be is if both 2 and 3 are factors of 32. And that's going to be it because 7 is also not going to be a factor. So what do we want to try first? 4 and 8. So we can start with 8 times a times negative 8, which would give us negative 8a. 4 times a is going to be plus 4a. Negative 8a plus 4a, negative 8 plus 4 is negative 4, telling us that this is negative 4a. Is that the middle term that we wanted? No. It is the correct number, but it's the wrong sign. So to get the right sign, all we need to do is to flip the signs. Because if we flip the signs, now we have a times positive 8, which would give us positive 8a. And negative 4 times a would give us negative 4a. And 8a minus 4a would be a positive 4a, which is the correct middle term that we wanted. So a minus 4 times a plus 8 would be the correct set of factors. Questions? Are you ready for the next one?
Oh,
4. X squared minus 17x plus 72. Is there a greatest common factor between these three? No. Especially if we just have x squared or a variable squared without a number, and the third term doesn't have a variable, there's most likely not going to be one. Third term is 72. Is it positive or negative? Yeah, plus. So the signs are going to be the same and match the sign of the middle term, yes?
Yeah.
So they're both what?
Negative.
Negative and negative. Factors of the first term, factors of x squared are what? X and x. Factors of 72. We have 1 and 72. 2 and 36. Is 3 a factor?
No.
3 and 24. 4, is it a factor? 4 and 18. How about 5? No. 6 and 12. 7 and 8. 8, 9. 7's not a factor. One of the giveaways that 7's not a factor as well. 70 is a factor of 7. 72 is way too close. 77 would be the next factor for 7. Which set of factors of 72 do we want to try first? 8 and 9. X times negative 9 is going to be negative 9x. Negative 8 times x is negative 8x. So to check that middle term, we have negative 9x minus 8x. Negative 9 minus 8. Negative 9 minus 8 is negative 17, telling us that we have negative 17x. Is that the middle term we wanted? Yeah. So x minus 8 times x minus 9 are our factors. Questions on this here? Okay. Questions on any of this so far? All right. X squared minus 7x minus 30. Is there a greatest common factor? Nope. So we'll have our 2 sets of parentheses with 3 spaces. We need to find the signs. What would our signs be? Opposite, because since the third term is negative, our signs would be opposite. So one would be positive, one would be negative. Doesn't matter which one we set as plus, which one is minus. We just need to have one as plus and one as minus. Factors of the first and third term. Factors of x squared would be x and x. Since there's only one set of factors for x squared, we'll just go on and throw it in. Factors of 30, on the other hand, there are a few. 1 and 30, 2 and 15, 3 and then 5 and 6. Which set of factors do we want to try first? 3 and 10. Does it matter which one goes first? Which one do we want to put first? We put 10 second. Last thing we need to do is check it. X times negative 10 would be negative 10x. 3 times x, positive 3 times positive x would be positive 3x. 10, negative 10x plus 3x, negative 10 plus 3, negative 7x, which is the middle term that we wanted. Let me get this here. Questions on this here? Questions on any of these so far? Do we feel comfortable with these? Yes? So for this one here, there is no greatest common factor. So we'd have 2 sets of parentheses with 3 spaces. Yes? What would our signs be? Positive and positive. Since the third term is positive, the signs are the same, match sign of the middle term, plus and plus. Factors of the first and third term. Well, factors of p squared are p and p. That's the only ones we have, so we'll go on and plug those in. Factors of 50, there's a few. So it might be helpful to list those out. We have 1 and 50, 2 and 25. 3 is not a factor, 4 is not a factor, 5 and 10 are, and that's actually it. Which one do we want to try first? 5 and 10. P times 10 is positive 10p. 5 times p is positive 5p. And 10p plus 5p is 15p. So those are our factors. We'll do 2 more, and then I'll give you all the rest of the time to do the assignment. 2r squared plus 6r minus 8. Is there a greatest common factor between these 3 terms? 2. So there is a greatest common factor of 2, and since there is one, we're really just dividing each of the terms by 2. We're taking that greatest common factor out. So we factor out 2 from 2r squared. We're actually just left with r squared. We factor 2 out of 6r, 6 divided by 2. Leaves us with 3, and we still have our r. And lastly, 8 divided by 2 is 1. After we finish factoring out the greatest common factor, we can go to our 2 sets of parentheses with 3 spaces. The third term's sign is negative, so the signs are opposite, positive and negative. Now we need to find the factors of the first and third terms. The only factors for r squared are r and r. Factors of 4, there's more than one. 4 to 1? Mm-hmm. Which one do we want positive? 1 or 4? 1 is negative. Then the last thing we're going to do is check. R times negative 1 is going to be negative 1r, just negative r. 4 times positive r is going to be positive 4r plus 4r. So we have negative r plus 4r, negative 1 plus 4 is going to give us positive 3r. Is that the middle term we wanted? Yeah. Questions on this here? Questions on any of this so far? Now, I will say this as a side note, especially on the ACT, they might show up if they're asking you to factor. Again, as I've said before, as all of your teachers are saying, especially talking about the ACT, use those answer choices to help you answer the question. Because if we saw this one come up on the ACT, we know that there's a greatest common factor of 2. So if we're factoring completely, any answer does not have a greatest common factor of 2 would not be the correct answer. We can remove those. We also know that the third term sign is negative, so the factors have to be plus and minus. Any of the answer choices that don't have the plus or minus in either one are now gone. And we can slowly work our way through it with the answer choices. And especially if you get to the point where there's only one answer choice left, take it and move on. There's no reason to finish it, especially on multiple choice. We'll do this one here, and then I'll let you have the rest of the time to work on the assignment. Is there a greatest common factor between these 3 terms? Because 20 and 56 are kind of bigger numbers, yes? But we know whatever the number, if there is a greatest common factor, it has to be in common with 4, 20, and 56, yes? So the biggest number we can have for the greatest common factor here is what? 4. Because they're seeing what divides into all three. 4 is our smallest number, so the biggest number we can have for greatest common factor is 4. So that's what I would check first. See if 20 is divisible by 4. It is. 56 is also divisible by 4. So it tells us that the greatest common factor is 4. So we're going to move it from all three terms. And if we factor 4 out of 4x squared, we're left with x squared. If we factor 4 out of negative 20x, we're left with negative 5x. And if we factor 4 out of 56, negative 56, we're left with negative 14. Now the 4 is still a part of our answer because we're factoring. We need it as a part of our final answer. But once we factor it out, we're now just trying to factor, really, at this point, x squared minus 5x minus 14. Since 14 is negative, our third term is negative, our signs are opposite. Factors of x squared are x and x. Now the factors of 14, there's more than one. Because we do have 1 and 14, 2 and 7. 3 is not a factor of 14. Y'all remember what the trick for divisibility of 3? If you add the digits together, and that number is divisible by 3, the number is also. So here, 1 plus 4 is 5. 5 is not divisible by 3, so it doesn't divide by 3. Back one more. So 30, 3 plus 0 is, 3 is divisible by 3, so 30 is also. Well, that's kind of easy. It's 3 times 10. 72, 7 plus 2 is 9, yes? Is 9 divisible by 3?
Yeah.
So 72 is also. 9 also works the same way. If the sum of the digits of the number is divisible by 9, it is divisible by 9 too. Do we want to try 1 and 14 or 2 and 7?
2 and 7.
X times negative 7 is negative 7x. Positive 2 times x is positive 2x. Negative 7x plus 2x, negative 7 plus 2 is negative 5. Is that the middle term we wanted? Because after we factor out the greatest common factor, we're looking at it, not the number at the start. We aren't looking at negative 20x anymore. We're looking at the negative 5. So 4 times x plus 2 times x minus 7 is our factored form. Questions on any of this here? Now, I will tell you this. So on the 12, one of the 12 is not factorable. Yeah. And one of the 2, so one of the 12 is not factorable. It is not 3. It is not 4. It is one of them, and one of them only has a greatest common factor. So the only thing you can do is factor out a common factor, and that's it. But the rest are completely factorable. I tried to fix the one that wasn't factorable, and it thought I did, but it actually didn't. It still just stayed not factorable.